What's up, you guys? It's your boy Miguel here to give you your daily dose of radiation. In today's video, we are covering the first day of clinicals as an X-ray tech student. So to give you context, I'm a night shift X-ray tech. Been doing it for over 4 years. Trauma 3 ER in the great state of Texas. Now, if you're watching this and you're like, I'm about to be on my first clinical site. I can already remember. I actually have a picture of me my mom took of Miguel grinning, smile, like ear to ear, full of hopes and dreams, going to my site, which is where I actually work at now. And I remember looking at it, even now as we're talking, looking at it, and I was like, Miguel, full of hopes and dreams, looking all, it's funny. But anyways, the first day of clinicals, I will say it's both nerve-wracking and it's both exciting, and it will kind of put like it's, especially if you've never, like for instance me, I never had any medical experience, and I remember just being told some things about my wife because she's a lady. I mean, she's a nurse. She's been doing it for a while. And she told me her clinical experience, but I was like, surely X-rays is a little bit different. And she was like scaring me and stuff like that. But like, I would for sure get there early. Like for instance, if your thing's at 8 o'clock, get there probably, depending how big your hospital is or wherever you're going, maybe 5-10 minutes before, because especially if you've never been to the hospital, finding the radiology department or even getting all the way back to where they are, it can be a challenge due to security, and you don't have badge, and some places don't know they have students. Other places, like my hospital, we're kind of accustomed to students. So like, get there a little bit early because it's going to be kind of harder to get to, especially if you don't know where it is. Just putting that out there. So make sure you have plenty of time, because sometimes parking and stuff, you're told to park like way farther than normal people do. And God forbid, there's been times where I remember you would go and there was like, we everyone on their first week of clinicals, we all sat down and like told them our experience of how it was. There were students who were like forgetting their markers, forgetting their like badges, and like double check you always have your stuff. And it was just like, it was quite a day. I remember going, finding my department. It was like 3 of us at the site, and like you got a little tour. You showed up, to the main department, and you met with like whoever the clinical like CI of that location was, and they give you the little rundown of the place. They're like, hey, my name's so and so, I'm manager. Hey, this is one of the RPAs or radiologists. You really don't see them; they're always away, but sometimes you'll see them. And they'll kind of, give you the rundown, like, hey, we'll show you all the hospitals, show you kind of like where everything is, show you like the rooms, show you what we're working with, and like maybe the first few days, it's just kind of like you just kind of shadowing, depending on how how comfortable you are or what's going on. And they'll kind of, explain to you, they'll show you like, especially like ours, they do fluoroscopy. They gave us like a little paperwork where it showed like all the fluoroscopy exams and how like the RPA, whoever likes stuff done, the little setup they have going on. And it's very educational, very, very chill, very like just trying to learn, like try to grasp everything and try to remember everything you got going on. And I remember my first day, I was in the patient out building, which is, ours is the POB, which is like walkie-talkie patients. That was my first site, first section of the emergency room, because it was like the ER where I was, and then the main radiology where they do fluoroscopy, and they kind of divided you up. And I remember being with techs, and like in my mind, I've been told by the teacher, like, hey, the X-ray techs do stuff different than what you do in school, which to this day completely astonishes me of how it's how you learn what's proper for the board, and then your job to get the job done is completely different. Not that many professions, and I've talked to other people with other degrees, that school is, it's weird. But I guess with our field, there's so many ways to get like a shoulder, to get thinking outside of the box, to still get the same optimal image. There's different ways. And you just quickly realize how every tech completely different. The interactions, some like you, some you don't. Some are willing to, kind of show you. Other ones are irritated that you're there. And just quickly you can kind of pace and see, how you fall and stuff like that. Because sometimes like you'll kind of like, there'll be a lot of stuff going on, and like you'll try to help, but at the same time you're like, well, I don't want to slow them down, or I don't want to mess up anything. And seeing students now, like, and it's funny on the first day, because like they'll like, even a simple chest x-ray, they'll be like, 72 column me and marker, and they're doing like going above and beyond, and it's funny looking back at it. And a simple 30-second chest x-ray becomes like a 5-minute just to get one view. And it's funny because like they'll do all that, and then we'll get it, we'll shoot it, and then they clip it, and then they're like, okay, let me readjust it, redo everything, and then shoot it again. And then to see an x-ray tech, I remember the one I was under, been doing it for like 15 years. Homeboy over here, 30 seconds, just beep, and then he's like, all right, we're done. And then I looked at him, and I'm like, bro, the image hasn't even been processed. It was still, still being processed. And he looked at me, and he's like, Miguel, you know how many hundreds of thousands I've done? He's like, I believe in my skills. And then I looked at it, and I'm like, you're right, your textbook. And I was astonished of how quickly, stuff could get done with the experience and with like knowledge and stuff like that. And it is quite eye-opening, and you kind of get a glimpse of how everything works. And then same thing, like even after going to your first site and then going to another site, because like ours, like you I think we rotated between like 4 different places. Even going to a new site, even though you still have experience, it's still a little nerve-wracking, because you're like, okay, I know all this knowledge now. I should be good, but how are the techs? How's the shitty equipment? Because everywhere got shitty equipment. And then it's just like that first day for a little bit, you're just kind of like antsy and stuff like that. And then you make it through your first day, and then whenever you go back to the different clinical site, you're like, okay, cool, I got it. I understand how some of the stuff works, how they kind of, have the rundown, and then you become comfortable again. And then it's like that for any new site. I'm thankful that I got to shadow even other modalities that our program offered, that just to get a glimpse. And that was also interesting too, because for instance, going to MRI and doing, just shadowing that's a whole different thing than ours. And some of those you felt kind of weird, because you really couldn't do much except maybe put the patient on the table and set the table, and then just kind of observe and kind of learn from the text, because it's a whole different thing. Like the closest one would probably be CAT scan. You're kind of still positioning-ish in the same realm, and it's just, with contrast, without contrast, the injectors, the slicing speed. It's kind of similar to X-ray. The closest to me, that one seemed more easier for me to, be able to interact with the techs and help them out and do stuff, because it was a little bit more similar compared to like Nuke Med, where I was completely blown away, because I was like, yo, what am I looking at? It looks grainy. And then he's like, it's the gallbladder. And I was like, this is not for me. And we even also shadowed ultrasound, and I was like, yeah, this is not for me. It looks boring. Half the time I was like falling asleep, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I could do that. But there's people who switch teams and they decide to go that route. But overall, it is quite the experience, and it's just like, it almost feels like it's the first day of school, and you're just excited but nervous, and you're full of hopes and dreams. And now at this point in my career, I'm just happy that I was able to make the right decision for me, and I love my job, and I'm thankful, I have a good job, and like, where I was a student, and here I am with more experience and the knowledge. And at this point in my career, I'm just mastering how to do the fix technique, and like just, like how to get the most optimal image, setting the technique. Like that's literally the only last part I'm dealing with the X-ray, as far as just dealing with the variables of seeing the patient, adjusting the machine to the proper technique, because that itself alone is something that just takes time, and different patients, different stuff, and it literally just repetition, trial and error of however shitty your equipment is, and just getting stuff done. To me, that's like kind of the last part of our field that it just really comes down to. It just takes time, reps and stuff like that. But anyways, it's been your boy Miguel. If you enjoyed today's video, we'll see you on the next one as I educate you in this beautiful world of radiology. If you want some laughs and memes, check out the shorts. Check out the link below with the TikToks. I will never charge you for none of the knowledge. I'm giving back to the community, and we'll see you on the next one.